people. People are coming in, so you can wave to them. All right. Hi, everybody, and thank you all for joining us on this beautiful and freezing spring day. We're coming at you live from the Westport Library's Trebs Forum, which is super cool because I have not been on this stage in about 6 months. We're so excited for today's program, but before I introduce you to Sivan and her characters, I want to start by thanking our awesome community partner, Westport Together. Now, a couple of things before we kick things off. First, if you have a question for Sivan, please type them in the Q&A feature that's directly below us. We will do our best to get to that during our show today. Also, and this is super important, Sivan will be signing copies of both books today at 1:30 in the library's upper parking lot. So please stop by for a socially distanced event and we will all be masked up. Now, on to the main event. Sivan Hong is the author and illustrator of the children's book series, the Super Fun Day books, including Benny J and the Horrible Halloween and George J and the Miserable Monday. Her inspiring books focus on young children who overcome their emotional challenges and demonstrate perseverance and bravery. Sivan also occupies seats on the board of several foundations and nonprofits. When she's not working, Sivan enjoys being a wife to her lovely husband and a mother to their 2 wonderful children. They have a dog and a cat and live a quiet and contented life right here in Westport, Connecticut. So, Sivan, welcome.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you for being here. We're super excited to have you on this super fun day. I'd love to start by throwing it over to you to read Benny J.
Sure, I would love that. Benny J and the Horrible Halloween was written and illustrated by me, Sivan Hong.
Okay. Hang on one sec. We're going to show you guys the book. There we go.
Wonderful. We can go to the next page. This book is dedicated to Eric, Benjamin, and Josh, who make each day super fun. Hi, my name is Benny J. My favorite things are eating chocolate ice cream with rainbow sprinkles and pressing the buttons on elevators. Tomorrow is a Halloween parade at school. Everyone will come in their costumes. My teacher, Miss Austin, will be in a costume. All the parents will be there to watch. Everyone says it's a super fun day. Everyone is excited about the Halloween parade. Everyone, that is, except for me. I am not going. I know what you're thinking. Benny J, you say, why don't you want to go to the Halloween parade? I knew you would ask me that, and I have prepared my list of 5 really, really good reasons. 1, sometimes I feel shy. I don't want everyone looking at me in my costume. What if somebody laughs at me? 2, I won't recognize my teacher or my friends in their costumes, and I will feel like I don't know anyone in school. 3, it will be very loud, too loud. I don't like loud things. 4, it will ruin our normal school day schedule. I like our school day schedule. It hangs on the wall in my classroom, and it is the very same every day. 5, I won't be able to find my parents cheering for me at the parade. Well, the other kids will see their parents. See, I told you, it's a really, really good list. The next day, my parents say it will be a super fun day. They wrote me a list to make the Halloween parade easier for me. I think it's a really, really good list. 1, dressing up for Halloween is like playing dress up at choice time. Even when my friends are dressed up, I still know it's them, and they know it's me. 2, if I feel scared, I can take a big belly breath and I will feel better. 3, I can wear headphones with my costume so that it won't be too loud. I don't like loud things. 4, I can hold my teacher's hand in the parade. 5, my parents will hold up a big sign that says Benny J, so I will see them. See, I think it's a really, really good list. When I get to school, I am very nervous, so I take a big belly breath. Miss Austin, my teacher, is dressed like an astronaut, but I still know it's her. Joey B is a doctor, and Ava G is a football player. We march all around the school. Everyone is cheering for us. My parents have a big sign with my name on it. Afterwards, we have a party with popcorn and stories. It was a super fun day. A really, really super fun day. The end.
All right. Thank you for that. So I do have a couple questions for you. First, I want to start by saying that you had me at Halloween because that's my favorite holiday. So I was in immediately. The other thing I really love is superhero origin stories. So I want to ask you about your writer origin story. How'd you get started writing? And then how'd you get started illustrating?
So for me, you know, my superhero story, Alex, was around COVID, frankly. You know, my kids, like most kids, were at home doing remote learning. And I was doodling while I was working with them. And first drew the character of Benny J, who looks and is very similar to one of my sons. And from there, the idea came to write a story about one of his experiences. And so the character came first, and then the story came, and it was based on a true story. And after that, it dawned on me that I could keep writing more stories about experiences that I as a parent had or my kids had. And it became a great stress release during COVID. I wish I could be the person who made the sourdough bread, but I wasn't. I was the person who was doodling in my notepad and coming up with these characters.
I don't know how many people actually successfully made sourdough bread. They tried, but you made 2 books. And I guess so the idea came first, but did you ever want to be a writer before these books, or was it just kind of something that happened?
It really was something organic that happened. It was not something that dawned on me that I could do. And I think they always say that you write about what you know. And so this was something I knew about. And so the writing kind of flew from there.
So here's the part that makes me a little bit anxious, because not only did you decide to write your first book, but then you said, I'm going to go ahead and draw my own book. So can you talk a little bit about the illustrations?
Yeah, I'm a doodler. And have always kind of doodled characters throughout my life, much to the dismay of many of my teachers, I think. And the Benny J drawing had a couple of iterations, and then I kind of landed on a style that I thought was simple enough for my audience. I really didn't want the illustrations to be complex. I wanted them to appeal to, 4 to 7-year-olds. And once I hit on that, then the drawings kind of flew from there.
And let's talk about the characters a little bit. Talk about Benny. Where did Benny come from?
So Benny is based on one of my kids. And he's an incredible child who absolutely hated the Halloween parade. And in kindergarten, I remember that day because we were ready to go and I was driving him to school and he pretty much said, I have no interest in going, I'm not going. And as a parent, I was floored. It's Halloween. Everybody's supposed to love Halloween. Why wouldn't you want to go to the Halloween parade? You're dressed up in this costume. And I felt like something was wrong. I did something wrong as a parent to not have him be as excited as in my mind every kid should be excited about. But he didn't go, and we ended up missing the Halloween parade, and he came to school late that day. And I knew that moving forward, this was going to be something that as a parent I needed to help him with. and provide him the tools in order to overcome this challenge. And so the following year, working with his incredible teachers, we came up with a list of things that he could do in order to be successful. And he was very nervous, and I was so impressed by how he persevered. And he did it. And one of his teachers sent me a picture of him right after the Halloween parade, and he was dancing for joy. And from then on, he loves Halloween. And so it was a perfect example of something that a young child can do and overcome.
So we haven't met George yet, so I'm going to save that question for a little bit later. But this one might be a tough question, but there's a lot to kind of unpack the last answer. I think there are lessons for a lot of different people in this book. So who did you write the book for?
So initially, I wrote the book for parents with kids who are facing emotional challenges of whatever sort, anxiety or special needs, to really be a social story. Special needs kids get kind of the secret sauce because they get these lovely guides to help them through challenging times. And when my kids were that age, I looked and there weren't really books that tackled emotional challenges that were designed for young kids. Many of the books, and they're wonderful, were too long to hold my kids' attention. And so these books were really targeted to fill that gap, to be a social story for every kid, not just special needs kids, but every kid, and to give them the tools to talk about their feelings and talk about the things that they worry about. That's why there are lists in the books, because lists give structure, and structure can provide comfort to kids who are facing those kinds of challenges.
Okay, on that note, how's the feedback been?
I'm kind of blown away by the feedback. So these books are being used in special needs classes, but they're also being used in regular classes. And the feedback that I get from teachers is that it really creates the opportunity to have kids talk about their feelings and feel like it's okay to talk about these feelings. And then the feedback I receive from parents is that many of them get a lot of joy because their children can see themselves in these books. There are not a lot of books out there that will show a child wearing headphones. And kids with sensory issues wear headphones a lot. And the idea of normalizing that and making that something that kids see every day as a normal part of life was really important to me. In all of my books, you will keep seeing characters who have some sort of identification with a diverse group so that kids can keep seeing mirrors of themselves succeed in books.
So I wonder, are there some lessons that you learned during the writing and illustrating the book from your characters that maybe surprised you a little bit?
For me, what really dawned on me was the dual nature of bravery and fear, and that you can't really have bravery without fear, because then there's nothing to be brave about. And recognizing that feeling fear and being nervous is a very okay emotion, and then the bravery comes hand in hand with that, and then comes the feeling of accomplishment. I laugh because I told my kids this morning that I wanted them to come and do this instead of me because I was feeling scared. And they said, "No, Mommy, you can be brave." And so the same things that happen to kids happen to us as grown-ups, right? Like this feeling of being able to overcome a challenge and what you feel like at the end of it applies to all humans.
That leads perfectly into this next question. Did you, because this is the first book that you wrote and illustrated yourself, and you did all of the publishing of it yourself too. Were there any challenges that you faced throughout the entire creation process?
So I'm a complete neophyte to the publishing world, and it's a bit daunting. And the greatest thing I think about being a new author is the support you get from other authors. There's such a community, and I was able to talk to so many people who gave me advice about what to do and what to look for, and lots of free videos on YouTube from other authors just sharing their advice. And so you get this sense of of community in an otherwise fairly cutthroat world.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, that was the part that was like, okay, I can figure this out because I have a support network of people I know, and frankly, strangers on YouTube who can provide me the guidance I need to succeed.
Yeah, it's crazy how the world has shrunk, and some, I mean, out of COVID, we've done at the library, we've done over 400 virtual events with some with authors, some with speakers, but it does allow you to get the book out there to a much different audience, right?
Yeah, and to me, what matters is getting that book out there,
mm-hmm.
right? And being able to share these things with parents and teachers to help them be a teaching tool and a tool that opens discussions. I mean, that's why I'm doing it.
And the book is available as beautiful paperbacks and also digitally on Amazon and also on your website?
That's correct.
And your website is?
SivanHong.com.
Excellent. And I have one more question before we go into the second reading. Before I ask the question, though, I want to remind everybody that after the second reading, we are going to take questions from you guys. And I see we already have a bunch of questions in the chat. So please continue to put questions there. And remember that Sivan will be here at the library at 1:30 to sign copies of her book. So before we get into the next book, can you introduce us to George, the main character in the next book?
So George is a kid who has typical school anxiety. And this was not something I realized even existed until my kids were at school. And I started to hear how many elementary school kids were missing school because they were nervous about the school day. And like the Benny J book, this book is also based on experiences that I had as a parent with a kid who didn't want to go to school on Mondays, and really trying to understand what was behind that stress and where the nervousness about school came from.
That's so interesting. And I do have a couple of questions about that, which we'll go into afterwards. So now I'd like to turn it over to you for a reading of George J. and the Miserable Monday.
Thank you, Alex. So George J. and the Miserable Monday, written and illustrated by Sivan Hong. Dedicated to Eric, Benjamin, and Josh, who make Mondays super fun. Hi, my name is George J. My favorite things are spaceships, silly books, and my rest buddy, Seymour. Tomorrow is Monday. I do not like Mondays. I think they are miserable. What's wrong with Mondays, George J., you say? That's a very, very good question. And I have a very, very good answer. Here are my top 5 reasons why Mondays are miserable. 1, weekends are super fun. Mondays are not a weekend. 2, when I return to school, things could be different. What if my seat moved? What if the schedule changed? What if they canceled recess? 3, maybe no one will want to play with me. 4, when I am at school, I will miss my family. 5, I will miss Seymour. My mom says it's okay to be worried. She knows I can be brave. My dad says it's okay to be worried. He knows I can be brave. My big brother says that sometimes it can feel scary when you worry. He says he will sit with me on the bus to help me feel brave. The next day, my dad makes me my favorite breakfast, French toast with berries. I still don't feel brave. My mom walks us to the bus stop. I still don't feel brave. On the bus, my big brother tells me to look inside my backpack. It's Seymour. I start to feel a little brave. In my classroom, I see that everything is the same. My teacher, Miss Molly, greets me with a big smile. I finally feel brave. At recess, we play with my friends. We play tag. It's super fun. I miss my family, but I know I will see them when I get home. I also know Seymour is in my backpack, and I feel brave all day. At first, I was worried, but in the end, Monday was a super fun day, a really, really super fun day. The end.
Yay, thank you. So I just, before we get into, because I see we do have audience questions, I wanted to ask, it really, it's more than just a case of the Mondays, right? So I guess, how did you dig into some of those real anxieties and then kind of, make them so relatable?
They were real. Those are the anxieties that I heard my kids talk about. And they're the best editors I could possibly have, because I read the books to them and I say, is this how you were feeling? And we talk about those emotions. And if it's something that didn't ring true, they're honest, they're kids. They will tell me, Mom, that's not true. That's not how I feel. And so that's how I made it real, because it is real.
So I'm gonna pick up my computer and take a look at some of the questions that we have coming in. I think you touched on this, but I'm gonna ask it again. Catherine asks, what inspired you to write these stories about kids and the things that worry them?
My experience as a parent, and frankly, right now with COVID and everything that our young kids have been through, the social and emotional challenges that they have are really great. And now more than ever, they need outlets to be able to talk about the way they're feeling.
So we also talked about this one. I won't do this one, but Rini asks, she says, no one needs more sourdough bread. So that was her comment. And then she says, they say, I love what you said about bravery and fear going hand in hand, a good lesson for all of us. Can you give us a sneak peek into the character for book number 3?
Indeed, I can. So the next book is about a young girl named Emily. And Emily is very nervous about the first day of school. And this is something that I think almost every kid feels, the uncertainty about what's coming, the new teacher, the new friends. And so this book will be released this August, and will focus on how Emily manages to survive the first day of school.
Do you have a plan? Do you have a number of these in mind, or can just as organically writing?
I have about 3 or 4 topics that I still want to cover, and then kind of more continue. Like I'm reminded about things that kids are going through, and parents have been coming to me and saying, could you write a book about this? And so I could imagine that the series grows, but I want every single book to have a different character, because all kids feel these things, and I want them to be able to identify themselves in at least one of the characters of the books.
So if you have more questions for Sivan, please type them in the Q&A feature. On that point though, how long does it take you to write and draw one of these?
Given that I still am a mom and spend a lot of time with the kids and all the other things that I do, it usually takes about a month. However, then the publishing part happens. And as you know, Alex, that's the part that takes the chunk of the work. But I try to savor the illustrations because I enjoy doing them so much. So I limit myself to 1, maybe 2 a day. And then once I sketch everything out, then it goes into the computer and I put them in Adobe Illustrator, and then they look like they do in the book. So
cool. We do have another question. So will the situations all be things in future books, all be things you or your kids went through, or will you extrapolate a bit from other people's experiences as well?
Well, right now I have a laundry list of things that my kids have gone through. And when I get through with that, maybe I'll start looking at things that my kids hadn't experienced. But like we talked about earlier, you write about what you know. And I want to make sure that the books are authentic and really touch the true emotions that kids are going through and not the emotions that I, as a parent, think kids are going through.
So you touched on this before, but someone asks, can you talk about diversity in your books? How are you thinking about incorporating diverse characters in your stories?
I love that question. So my next character, Emily D, is a girl of color, and I made sure to leave her hair naturally curly as a real kind of tribute to making sure that young girls see themselves for who they are in books. And in Benny J, so it's hard to tell because of my illustration style, but he's Asian. And in the book, there is a couple who's a parent couple, but it's a gay couple. And there's a dark husband and a lighter husband. And I really try to pop these little things in all of my books so that it's normalized.
Excellent, thank you. When you talk about little things, Jocelyn says, just for the record, George's shoes with the eyes and the smiles are adorable.
They're supposed to be Chewbacca, Jocelyn. Chewbacca slippers, which we actually have.
I like it even better now. We have another question. How do you pick the names of your characters?
My children pick the names of my characters.
That's awesome.
So one of my children decided that Benny should be Benny, and the other one picked George because he loves Captain Underpants books, and George is his favorite character in Captain Underpants. And the next book, Emily, it was picked because one of my sons read a book with a character named Emily and he liked her. So that's how Emily got picked. So the kids are very much involved in that part of the process.
Bobby asks, do you think you will write a book about COVID?
No.
Good answer.
If I had started this a year ago and could have gotten it out before the kids had to go back to school and could have helped them address some of these challenges, then it could have been something I would have done. But these kids are doing such an incredible job. I'm not sure they need a book from me to talk through their feelings. I feel like we can learn from them and their ability to wear a mask all day long.
So in the last year, I have spoken to, I would say, probably 200 authors. And I've asked that question to each of them, and not one of them is writing a book about COVID year. Not yet, anyway. Chrissy says, brava on your wonderful stories. And they ask, how did you find time to write these books during this chaotic year of homeschooling? And I guess I would just add on to that, because you talked about it a little bit, but is there a time of day or night, or do you have a process?
So I was writing them when my kids were in distance learning, and it was kind of very piecemeal, but I had to be with them to answer questions or to get them to get back to the computer, because young kids don't want to sit in front of the computer and learn. And so in between those moments, that's when I would write. And my process is very much working on it earlier in the morning and writing my illustrations in the morning. And then I save the marketing and all the other less fun stuff for the afternoon.
Jocelyn asks, have you considered writing books for older kids in anticipation of your own kids' next challenges?
No. Only because for me, one of the drivers for writing these books was the gap, right? There are so many incredible books out there for older kids that tackle social emotional needs or have diverse characters. But I really wanted to fill a gap in terms of the kinds of books that are available on these topics for kids in that younger age group.
So we are just about at the end of our time. So if you do have a question, please do type it in, and I'll do my best to get to it. Once again, to purchase the books, they're both on Amazon and at sivanhong.com. And everyone remember that Sivan will be here at the Westport Library in the upper parking lot today at 1:30, signing copies of both books. So please do stop by and mask up. I was going to ask, kind of similar to that last question, would you consider writing something completely out of this in a different genre, maybe fiction or?
I don't think so. I joke because I don't feel like I'm an author in that sense. my husband's the writer in our relationship. But for me, the joy is the illustrations and the writing, and I really would love to marry them. The other thing that I just wanted to point out is that every single teacher in these books is real. I use their first name, not their last name, but they are real teachers who really did the things that happen in these books. And to me, they are kind of, along with the children who can overcome their fears, they're the real heroes.
That's the perfect stopping point for today. Thank you, Sivan, for that. Thank you for writing these books and for addressing these important challenges that I think, you know, as someone who also struggles with anxieties, even at my age, I certainly appreciate it and can relate to the characters. So thank you for writing them.
Thank you so much for having me,
yeah,
Alex.
Thank you for
it's such a
here.
pleasure.
This was great. Everyone, please remember, Sivan will be in the upper lot starting at 1:30 to sign copies of the books. And before we go, I just want to once again say thank you to Sivan and to our community partner, Westport Together. Thank you so much. And to all of you out there, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for watching all of our stuff over the past year. And we're inching closer and closer to being here in person. So thank you all. Stay safe, be well, and we hope to see you at 1:30.